Now let's join all of us together. Can I see the 4 screens? Or yes. Nice to see all of you one more time. So let's start with the questions. I really encourage everybody who is online to have some questions on a chat. Of course, if you here in the room also have any questions, our guests are available. Maybe let's start with the first question which I prepare. Betul, maybe to you, as we just remember your presentation is very fresh in our minds. There is one important thing which is not now also in the media is inflation. So rising inflation is increasingly top of mind of course, consumers first, but also entrepreneurs. In the near term, how do you see inflation affecting demand for factoring? Of course, especially among SMEs.
Well, when we look at the global economies, the risk of inflation is real. Supply constraints and the easy monetary policies have been the main reasons behind the recent jump in the global inflation. Although the central banks are giving a proper policy response and tightening the policies, but supply constraints are unlikely to be resolved in the near term as far as we see. And this was likely to keep the energy and the transportation prices high for the minimum 6 months period ahead. We are hearing that the contracts for the transportation is still high for the next 6 months, 1 year period. So which means that the governments will even tighten their policies, and this will hurt the global growth outlook at least for 2022. Why I'm explaining this is globally because the penetration of factoring totally link with the GDPs of the countries, even in the emerging markets. So what I'm thinking, even we are investing a lot for the digitalization, this tightening economic policies will make the SME's life much more difficult.
Understand. Thank you very much. When we talk about the projections, still one question is to you, Betul. You show us the projections of the receivable markets over the next 10 years. They are based, of course, on current trends and technological capabilities. And do you see technological development in the field of automation, connectivity as a potential drivers or hindrances for growth? Because you saw the numbers that cost to income is growing because of the automation, but in general, is the technology more as a driver or also other hindrances?
Of course, the technological investments on a company basis and also on a country basis is very important. So during the pandemic, we saw many different developments on the softwares, on the digital scanning or digital processing systems, and also in different markets we see the investments on the mental level on for receivable recording systems. This makes the life of the both SMEs and for the financial institutions much and much better. But the problem is, on a global scale, the developments on the digital solutions and on the governmental level, the developments of the digital solutions are still very slow. I think this is because that the during the beginning of pandemic, SMEs or on the client side and also the financial institution side, we understood that the the technology is a must. It's not an option in our life. It is a must. But for the governmental level, their understanding on the global scale is still not that fast. So even we invest a lot, we need the governments also invest on the technology and to have the regulation that goes together with the technological solutions. But on that part, what I am witnessing on different countries, it is still very slow.
Thank you very much. Talking about automation, talking about fintechs, of course, it's obvious to ask the question to Daniel. Daniel, when talking about when developing ecosystem integration, banks have the option of creating extra services in-house, always, or forming partnerships with fintechs and similar companies, some startups. Where do you see the market moving today? Because we talk about these partnerships for the last few years, I remember even on this conference. So do traditional lenders see the advantages of partnerships with innovators like your company, Fintech OS?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. In fact, banks, the majority of the banks or the majority of our clients are looking towards the partnership with fintechs as they do not have the the disposal years to improve their system or their offer. So this is the main reason why we truly believe that the fastest go-to-market way is with partnership. Because you see, with vendors like Fintech OS that support the financial institution to get their digital innovation done easier, the banks are really fast and essential moving upwards, because we are putting in their hands a toolkit that can be operated by themselves as well as by us or other suppliers. But the point is that the toolkit is multifunctional, and by that they are very fast in the innovation. So they are very fast in launching new products, which is of essential for them, because the banks right now, they do not have 2 years that they used in the past in order to launch a new product. They do not have about I don't know, 1.5 years in order to gather some new ideas and put it all together in having as a, let's say, pre-selected box. So as speaking about that, I would say that very fast our last platform that we launched in a few weeks ago, the version 22, it's embedded a marketplace where in this marketplace we are placing predefined solutions, predefined journeys, predefined automators that they are just a click away. Just you could just grab it, put it in place, and in matters of I wouldn't say days, but weeks, you have the product up and running. So I think this is the thing that are really making the difference, because whenever, let's say, I was speaking early on about personalization. This is the way that you could really tailor your products, and you really can be very fast. And this is not only valid for the banks. This is also valid for the fintech company, because whenever we open up this marketplace towards our partners, everybody starts putting a small solution, a components, an automator there, and you never know when one with one will add up to make four, because this is the point, to have a collective, to bring more people and to crowd resources in one place, and to give the banks the choice to select from and select within a platform that is flexible and can be ready to be deployed immediately.
Thank you.
So in one word, I would say yes, the banks are really seeing the benefits of collaboration with fintechs.
Are they not jealous sometimes of your technology?
Yeah, that's a very tricky question. Yes, they are jealous. Sometimes they are jealous. Sometimes they come. Even the banks come. They have very good ideas. And honestly, the best collaboration is when the bank is challenging the fintech, as well. The fintech is challenging the bank, because the relationship is reciprocal. Is no time is working in only one direction. Always works both directions.
Thank you. Talking about these partnerships, Do you also use it, Madvidas, as your part of your strategy? What is your view about it?
Yeah, sure. We are using a lot of partnership and we are expanding them. As mentioned, this is actually part of ecosystem
Yes.
in order to succeed and to reach more customers. Because when playing alone, you basically are, you are forced to develop everything by yourself. And by using a partner, you can launch it immediately and to reach more customers.
Okay. Just back to your presentation, you mentioned the lack of financing option for firms, for companies in the Baltic states. Is credit worthiness of these firms an issue here? Or other side, do we simply have credit assessment standards in the CEE region that are too difficult to meet for these companies?
No, not completely. I mean, the companies in the Baltic countries are basically the same as everywhere else. Maybe the age for them is not so long because of the historical situations. Previously, I was working for 14 years in the credit institution when we were assessing actually the credit worthiness of the companies. So no changes compared, to I don't know Germany, France, or other regions. Basically, the assessment is the same. Here, I think that the biggest issue is the concentration of the financial lenders. As I mentioned, there is a huge couple of huge financial lenders, and all others are, just the startups, small players who are just, seeking to win their position in the market.
Talking about the region, uh, now you are present in Baltics, and what about Poland?
Uh, the Poland is next step for us, so we will try. Poland is a complicated market. We have experience already there, so you have to be prepared for Poland. It's a big market, but it's also very concentrated and other problems. So we will go there.
Yeah, we are famous of the frauds and this everything what is a little bit risky for the
Yeah.
lenders. Even on our factoring market, there were few competitors. Even of my company, there were a huge competitor from Germany with huge capitals, but they just fail on a risk management and on the frauds. This is the risk in Poland always. Talking about still Madvidas, if you can just be with me for a minute. You tell
Sure.
that alternative lending space is really fragmented in Baltics everywhere, also here in Poland, in CE region. So as a player in this space, how do you stand out from the competition? What is this?
Basic Yeah, basically, as I mentioned, the all the benefits which the alternative lenders can provide. Me myself, I'm representing a bank, so as I mentioned, basically we are joining both alternative lender and a bank as already licensed lender in one place. So here we stand out from the others because we can provide, a better pricing, and if, for example, the customer is not eligible because of his financial situation, historical situation, and so ever. We have alternative lenders who has fewer rules how to finance the companies. So this is the biggest standout. And then others, I would say, it's hygiene. So basically, to be fast, to be flexible, and so on. It's not something currently which makes you stand out from the others. Is the new normal, let's say, to be fast, to reply, to approach with the flexible solution, and to be customer friendly.
You are now a bank with the banking license. You feel you define yourself more as a fintech with the banking license or as a bank with the fintech solutions, fintech products?
I would say that more we are going to be a more bank with the fintech approach. So basically, we are using what the bank is having as the best. Of course, first is cheap source of funds. I would say less pricey source of funds, and then the fintech solutions, so the online solutions, online onboarding for the customers, quick solutions, and so on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. We are only talking about money, and money. So maybe let's talk also about the sustainability. So Dimitri, if I may ask you now, while of course it's obvious that making the sustainable transition is important, we mentioned about it. Do you think that the SME market is motivated by sustainability? For fintechs and lenders hoping to enter the SME space, is this sustainability the kind of concept that will maximize potential of SME clients?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michal. Of course, I also searched the internet a little bit for surveys, and there are numerous ones about consumers in relation to sustainability. And recently, I saw one of IBM and Deloitte, which were about the present bias for consumers when it comes to sustainability. And of course, this is also very representative for SMEs because, in fact, they are a consumer themselves, and they often also target consumers with their business. And the outcome of the survey was that 8 out of 10 consider sustainability as a decisive factor when buying goods and services. So, yes, there you see that research proves that SME clients definitely are motivated to do and buy sustainable. So it is all about making sure that your current clients don't leave via the back door, and that you encourage new ones to join your company.
Thank you very much for that. Do we have any maybe questions here in the room? Okay, we have a question. The microphone is on its way. If you could address first the question to whom, and please introduce yourself.
This is a question for Bertel. It's Michael Bickers from BCR Publishing. Hi, Bertel. Bertel, what do you see as the potential use of central registries, or central registry technology in the development of receivables finance, particularly in emerging markets? How important do you think that might be?
Thank you, Michael. It is, of course, very important because we have some good solutions in different markets, and many of the emerging countries trying to invest for the receivable registry systems. We have one good example in Turkey, in UAE also, in Romania. There is one registry system for the movable assets, one in Italy for the governmental receivables only. And it, of course, prevents the double assignment and identifies the invoices are if either real or not. And of course, it prevents the double financing. Those are the main fraud cases in our industry. So the registry system is, I think, very important for all of the markets. And it is a must. And it also should be supported by the governmental authorities because we see different systems developed by the private software companies or private investors, which do not cover the whole markets. So, of course, it doesn't work if it is not compulsory for the banks and the financial institutions. So it is important, very important, and it should be supported by the rules and the regulations, of course, by the governments also.
Yes. Thank you very much for this question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bertel, just come back to your slides. You show us that the durability of the factoring market during the economic downturns And given how deep the COVID-19 pandemic recession was, or still is, we don't know, why didn't we see a sharper decrease in factoring volume? Does that tell us something about the way recession works, this specific recession works, or the strength of factoring as a financing tool?
In reality, we saw that decrease for last year. The 6% decrease on the turnover, the whole turnover of the factoring industry is not a small,
Was not
but
so
it was
sharp.
limited.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is limited. Why? Because the last year crisis was not a financial crisis. It was totally different than what we were experiencing in 2008, 2009. It was not a financial crisis. So the government supports in almost in all emerging markets in all the European countries supported the SMEs. So the recession or the decrease of the turnover was limited for last year. And for this year, what my expectation is, of course, we are now going back to the normal in many countries. The government supports will be gradually, I hope it's going to be gradually removed. But I think that because of the government supports, the indebtedness of the SMEs is not so high. So I think that they're going to manage removal of the gradual government supports, and we are not going to experience the same decrease for the next year.
Hopefully. Thank you very
Hopefully.
much. Thank you very much for that. We have one question from our online chat. This question is to, I think, Daniel, to you, as it occurred when your presentation was here. I will read it. Ecosystems to provide value-added / beyond banking services have been discussed for at least 2-3 years. And a few examples exist. Why do you think are the main obstacles? What are the main obstacles of more development?
Okay, one of the main obstacles that I'm perceiving right now is the fact that the banks need to fully integrate with the clients. So integration with the clients, that's one of the biggest problems that they have, because it's not only the bank regulatory that is it's very strong, but you need to have let's say an API integration platform where you store the data, and the data is not the banking data, still it is the data of the clients. So it's something you need to have a buffer between the real banking activity and this extended activity, because what they are doing is a kind of a consultancy activity. It's not their core stuff, and this is difficult for banks to achieve. I think here is the most difficult part. And what we are saying is the fact that this kind of a consultancy, we try to automate, to simplify, to standardize, and to deploy it as off-the-shelf service. That's the difference that I'm seeing here.
Thank you very much for that. Madvidas, this is also connected with your development of your company. What kind of obstacles you see in the development nowadays?
Yeah, I was also thinking about the question when I heard. So basically, of course, the obstacles, there is different IT systems which you have to, which you have to find a solution how to incorporate one into another. Another problem is which we are also currently having is a lack of IT resources, because basically in order to be successful in the ecosystems and to manage your partners fluently, you have to have at least a department of internal IT developers or engineers, which is a huge problem in the Baltic countries, and I think that in Poland is the same. So this is more like, this infrastructure problem. And then, of course, is the finding the right partner in order to partnership with you, because then it's a licensing questions, there is a question of accessibility to your partner and so on. And also those problems which was mentioned by my colleague in previous answer.
Talking about your business, just one more question. As you mentioned, you are now focusing on this underserved market segment, which is, for example, SMEs, of course. And what about the market of larger companies? Like, are you entering also this market to serve the medium-sized companies?
Medium to large, I would even mention, and of course, we are not competitive currently on the pricing compared to the biggest banks, to the larger companies, because they're usually taking larger amounts of financing. But we are starting to compete with them because also the capacities are used already with the larger banks for the larger companies, and they still are lacking a financing. So, for example, they're applying for those traditional large banks, and the capacity is used. So then they are trying to find the solution elsewhere in the country. So then we appear as a solution for them to finance, to lend for a bit bigger margins, but just to provide as a financing solution which they are unable to find in another institutions.
What is the maximum amount which now a customer can borrow, a client, a company can borrow from you?
So basically, we are saying that from our ecosystem, customer can borrow up to 5 million euros currently, a single customer, or basically a group of customers, the same group.
It has to be divided in some products, or it has to be more?
No, it can be just a lending.
Okay, it's a lot. It's a lot, frankly speaking. It's a lot. Okay, let's talk more about, as we mentioned, about the banks and the institutions. Daniel, one question to you. Probably you know also our market, the Polish market, and the question: in the CE, we have countries like Poland, where we find state-controlled firms in the key positions on the financial sector. In Poland, banking sector is mostly state-owned now, or the same in insurance. As well, we have European Union regulations. Both of these factors could make developing of financial technologies more difficult. How do you see the current regulatory burden in the CE fintech space? Is there anything specific you'd like to see changed to encourage growth and innovation?
Well, that's a very long question, and it's going to follow. It's going to trigger by itself a
we
long
can
answer.
divide it in three.
Okay, I will start with Poland. Yes, Poland is quite apart from all the other countries in CE because of this high concentration of state capital in finance industry. But I mean, we used to. I mean, I used to work for a state-owned bank in the past, and I understand that a bank is a bank. It doesn't matter what capital they have behind, because the problems and the market pressure and the regulators, let's say, regulatory stuff that they have to apply and obey, they are pretty much the same. I would say that from our point of view, the type of the capital that is behind one bank or an institution, it might be just a matter of having more or less complicated processes, because the need is the same. So whenever you have the same need, you have the same offer. So I would see no difference between a state-owned bank or a privately owned bank, except the fact that you might face a little bit more scrutiny, more thorough processes, more rigorosity, and so on and so forth. That would be the biggest difference that I've seen. I could mention here. And now the regulatory. The reason for why the regulatory is there is clearly we need to be protected. Everybody wants protection, and everybody wants to have predictability and being more and more predictable. Okay, regulatory, it's giving us some kind of predictability, and on the other hand, they are taking something from us. They are putting a lot of complexity. But C regulatory, I would say that is not a burden for fintech space. We are looking at this regulatory part as an opportunity, because this is the biggest and more foreseeable change for us in the finance industry. We know that whenever some new regulation is imposed or is enacted, then the banks are going to follow, and they have to implement that. And by implementing that, it's practically for fintech, it's open up a market to be more innovative, to find solution, something, sometimes new solution, out of the box solution that will make new digital journeys, or make things more compliant, and so on and so forth. Open bank regulation is an example of how regulation actually open you possibility to offer better and better, more and more personalized services. On the flip side, the regulation around the digital and remote services is still in infancy, and creates issues and complexity that for many banks, in terms of how to manage the digital verification, is still a question mark and still a gray area. So some of our let's say our less regulated or more regulated markets, they have a higher or low appetite for digitalization, and it's also related with the courage and with the entrepreneurial type of the management of that institution. Because that's very important. How much entrepreneurial is the institution? And what I'm saying, that we can give the institution the ability to reduce their reliance of outdated infrastructure. We can offer them the possibility to fully digitalize their operation, and be innovative. And be innovative also in treating and respecting the regulation. When I'm saying innovative, is not obeying, or let's say avoiding the regulation, but being strictly within the regulation standards. And even more, practically, whenever we launch a predefined product, a predefined box in our marketplace, all our products have to be regulatory compliant, because otherwise nobody is going to look at them. And that's the beauty of it. I mean, we are developing a product is compliant, and you as a bank, you just go there and take it out and use it.
Understand. Thank you very much for that. Do we have any more questions here in the room, maybe? No, there is also no online questions. So I just like to go back, Dimitri, to you, as Dimitri, you are with us. So one question. At Findo, you see impact lending as an opportunity. Why shouldn't we see it as a restriction on potential client? Doesn't this impact lending mean pushing to the side clients who don't have this sustainable business model?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is exactly what I addressed with the last pointer, where you would
Yes.
see the impact prism with the green, the orange, and the red area, where, of course, the red area is about excluding companies. And so these are, in fact, the ones that you do not want to improve, because they simply do not fit in with your most basic values. And that is where I could imagine that, for example, this would be companies that would be in, let's say, the sex industry or weapons industry. These do not fit in with your basic values. But then again, the orange area is all about enticing and motivating the companies that are not sustainable yet.
Yes.
So you make impact while improving a company that scores, let's say, 5 out of 10, and you help them improve in becoming an 8. And that is where you then make much more impact than focusing on an SME that is already sustainable. So that maybe scores an 8 out of 10, and to make them a 9. So that is where you make choices as a financial institution, and you guide the ones, especially in the orange area.
Understand. Thank you. Thank you for that. I have a question to you. Do any of you have a question to each other? Maybe you have any questions to each other. Okay. So I think that as we have just few minutes, I like to give this time to you, Dimitri. because I think that the topic which you bring us here is extremely important and is, of course, difficult. And if you could just tell us just a few words, how to convince SMEs who are already competing in a difficult business environment, that environmental, social, and governance disclosures are good for their business outcomes in the long term. Just in few briefly words, just to encourage us and them.
Yeah, so I already explained that SMEs consider sustainability being important. And also, when I look at ourselves as a company, well, we're also an SME. So I do consider myself representative as well. And if that is actually true, then it also means that you have to put your money where your mouth is. And so that you want to know where do you stand and how are things going. And that, well, for that, it takes a little bit more than just a gut feeling, because facts are very important, so that you're confronted objectively on what is going well and where do you need to improve. And yeah, for example, compare it with getting your master's degree. And how would you like it if your professor would attribute it just because his gut feeling would say it's okay? That must be rather awkward and strange.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. So, thank you very much, all of the panelists. I really appreciate this panel. It was a lot of interesting information. This sustainability topic is extremely important. Thank you very much, of course, for the statistics and the future vision of the development of the market. Betul, thank you especially for you. Matvidas, we are waiting for your company here in Poland. So, and also Dimitri, if you like to go to Polish market more, we are welcome you here. Thank you very much for this panel and see you maybe in 1 year.